Sorry, give me 1 second, please. All right, thank you, everybody. Once again, excited to be part of it. We have a few folks here that just joined. And today, what we'll be talking about is just to give an overview of clinical research. It's a learning exercise for us to just kind of brainstorm together as a team. And one thing I'll tell you, everybody, is that it's not uncommon to always, I believe we are all perpetual learners. What does that mean? It means in general, we want to keep learning and upskilling ourselves. For those of us that were in my group already, I shared with you some insight about certain areas in clinical research in total. It's a great field, in my opinion. It's a meaningful field. It's a great career path, I believe so. So the question that is going to be asked, typically, a lot of people ask the question, what exactly is the role of a CRA? What exactly would it entail? What would be my involvement? What would be the sacrifice on my part? I'll be the first to be honest to say, nothing is guaranteed. I don't care where you do your training, go to NYU, Harvard, Yale, wherever you go, nothing is guaranteed. But one thing I know is guaranteed is that most times when we put our best in good faith, good things always show up. That I'm confident about. We're going to put the work in it. We're going to put all the training, the knowledge to make us successful. And I'm very confident, with the discipline and time and the knowledge we apply, we stand a good chance. That's what I would say. So let's go. So what is the whole essence of a CRA? In simple terms, let's keep it simple. In every modernized environment, I would say, people invest a lot in research. They put a lot of financial resources in clinical research. So poster child for that recently would be like COVID study, right? The likes of Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, and other players out there. There are a lot of them out there right now. And before a research goes through the cycle, let's forget the Emergency Act that was passed to expedite the process. Even at that, people have concern about the safety because it's an emergency. So the efficacy of the data is still being constantly monitored. People are monitoring information about the data from the COVID study itself. So let's leave that for a second and just say the normal cycle of a study. Typically, you would have phase 0 or phase 1 that it's always like healthy subject or patients that are used. At phase 2, we start thinking of having cohorts and exploratory trial conducted. It's typically smaller chunk. Phase 3 gets to the point that we have enough data to say, let's roll it to much more larger population, okay? At this point, we would have a better indication if this study will be successful or not, because we have sufficient data to check for the subject. And anytime I say subject, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just saying technically the patients, right? They are the people participating in the study or in the trial. So in clinical research, we use the word subject. Now you might see us, instead of using the word doctor, we say PI, principal investigators. So you might see some little nuances, changes, but the concept is the same thing, okay? So now in phase 3, most of us will find ourselves, if you get to this field, I'll tell you, most of us will find ourselves mostly in phase 3 studies because it has larger reach, it takes longer, and it's just a different ballgame entirely, really. So you'll see yourself working on phase 3 studies developed. Phase 4 study is post-marketing study, whereby the medication or the drug is out there already, and we're just studying the data. And this is a continuous, ongoing thing most of the time. Data will constantly be studied and constantly evaluated at all times. So that's a big deal. We should always remember that. Okay, so that's really this concept of the product life cycle itself. on how the product is run from phase 1 to phase 4. So in real life, you might find yourself in different phases of studies. So you might, I think for most of us, you're going to be probably working in phase 2 or phase 3. That's typically like the bulk of it. It's always going to be a phase 2 or phase 3 trial at most times, which is pretty cool, really. So, prepare your mind. If you find yourself in a study, it's going to be phase 2 or phase 3 study most of the time. Okay. So then, of course, phase 4 will be post-marketing phase at that point in time in general. All right, let's talk about this real quick. Again, it's going to be some knowledge base for us. Informed consent. Every one of us have been part of this subconsciously or consciously in some form or the other, right? When we go to our doctor's space and we are trying to enroll in a particular clinic, they will give you a consent form, right? The concept is the same thing. In the world of trials, in clinical research, it's so critical for us because as part of what we assess from a safety and efficacy point of view, we need to check that the subjects actually have the informed consent signed. Because if you don't do that, if the FDA selects a site for an audit, that is one of the biggest significant issues you can have. So please ding me for everything, not for consent, because that is a monster finding, and it's one of the easiest ones to really figure out. Now, for pediatric patients, we have the assent form. So you have to have the guardian or the parents sign up on it. And of course, the doctors or the hospital system sign up on it also. Training compliance. Now, one thing you guys will see a lot, especially in this world, is that there's a lot of things around training. And, for someone like me, when I hear the word training, I'm thinking of somebody physically training, right? But in the world of research, when you say, well, I retrained my site, it's actually like you give them a verbal subtle warning to say, hey guys, next time, please, can you make sure that you have your subject signed informed consent or reconcile stuff. So it's just like your normal conversation. That's what we consider training. At least for me, it took me a while to wrap my head around it. Oh, that's training? Yeah, that's training, really. So that's what it really means. It's just to say, so you might see people say, I retrained my site, the site retrained the subject. So it's just saying they verbally spoke with them about the issue they noticed. That's retraining. All right. Now, from us, another big thing is that we as CRAs, it's so critical. Training is going to be your lifestyle. We train crazy. It's crazy. They push training a lot. Outside of your protocol training, you would have a lot of other trainings that always shows up crazy. So just get ready for that. It's part of our life. You just keep training. You might find yourself when you start with a company, your first 3 months might just be training. It is that crazy. Yeah. People would not mind you doing that again. Oh, well, my wife just said not anymore. So it's not as crazy as it was. But in the past, you'll find yourself training crazy. So now it's, it depends on the organization. It might be, what's the average now?
Training time.
A month. Okay, well, yeah. Well, I'll still take a month of free training anyway. So a month is cool now. So now a month. So imagine you starting a gig and your first month is training. There is no option. If they had their way, the organization would just say start work, but there is no option. You have to train at the minimum on the protocol, then the SOP, standard operating procedure of the organization also. All right. Okay, let's quickly go to another one. Subject recruitment and retention. Now, folks, listen. This is one of the most significant pieces of the puzzle. You might have $10 billion to spend on a study. If you don't have the subject to participate in the study, it's just wasted money. Nothing is going to happen. It's crazy. But I've seen this a couple of times. We have the funding. We can fly subjects from Europe to the US to participate in our study, but we just can't find them. Because in my case, then they were rare diseases. So rare disease classification is if it's less than 50,000 subjects or people affected by those diseases worldwide. So there is an incentive in the Congress passed in '84 by then President Reagan that made it attractive to pharmaceutical companies to invest in rare disease because that's the only way they can justify spending such amount because they can't get much from it, right? But it's crazy now. The incentive is in billions of dollars. So even studies that are not classified rare disease, people find some technicality to make it qualify so they can get those tax incentives from the government. So just look out for that. Recruitment is a big deal, but recruitment is useless if you can't retain those subjects too, right? So we have to have a very clear strategy around retention of those subjects that are participating in our trial in general. IP compliance, let me just throw it out there. Anytime you see the word IP, investigational product, it's just like your tablets, capsules, medical devices, whatever it is, those are investigational products. I'll give you a life story a couple of times. When I first got into this field, then my first gig, so I went to shadow a manager and she said, hey, can you help me with IP reconciliation? In my head, the grammar sound like some fancy big deal, really. So I went to the restroom, called my wife and said, hey, madam, what does this IP, what am I supposed to do? She smiled and chuckled and said, hey, just go count the medicine. I said, you mean as in counting? Just, and she said, yeah. So in my head, I was thinking, really? I overcomplicated it. You know, the funny thing was I just went back to the lady said it 2 times. So by that I realized, I think she meant it, that I should help her with this thing, you know, and I said, I have experience, so I have to figure this out. So I went back in, just took like a piece of paper and started writing, you know, counting, you know, took the kit's number, the subject name, and was writing how many doses they've used. And folks, don't complicate this. Somebody gave you a tablet, a capsule, box that has 30 tablets, and you return 26. All I'm going to ask is, you have 4 that was not used. That's it. And you document it at the end of the day, in my case. So it was not a big deal. And I gave it to this lady. She was so excited. Oh, thank you. That was great. So in my mind, I would say, all right. So that's it. Not a big deal. You're just counting medicine. And the good thing is that your protocol would have showed you specifically what is required. Of course, some studies are different. Some studies might be using of vials for eye drops. Some might be using of, what do you call this, sachet for IV? Infusion. Some might be infusion. So it depends. Some might be medical devices, so you don't really need to do any major reconciliation. So whatever it is, you'll be taught in your protocol, definitely. And of course, like any other typical thing, many times if you have, you know, depending on the study, some would say the medication should be stored in ambient temperature, right, room temperature. Some would say you have to put it in the freezer. Whatever is protocol state, you just follow it. Now, at times, if the temperature fluctuates, then they expect you to document the reason. As simple as that. All right, let's move on. Again, I'm just giving you guys some general tips of it, what's all about. We have some guidelines and principles. You guys would have to do GCP certification. For those of you on this call, let me see. I know I give some of us that task. Show of hand, who has done the GCP certification? Can you guys just give me thumbs up, or whoever has done the GCP certification real quick? Let's go. Give me thumbs up if you've done it. Anybody? Let's see. I think a few of you did it already. Okay, no worries at all. So what I expect is I want you to make sure I've sent the link. It's very easy to do. But before we begin our program, you must do it. It's important. It gives, and the good thing about this, for every one of us on the study, the PI, so by everyone, you know, everyone on the study must do GCP. You can't be on our study if you don't have a GCP certification. GCP is good clinical practice. The one I will send to you guys is from the National Institute of Health. So it's funded by the federal government and it's free. So just go ahead and do it. Some companies pay for it. So it's pretty cool that we have something that is, you know, we can take advantage of. All right, another thing I'll talk about real quick, essential documents, okay? So anytime you hear the word, and don't worry, folks, these are things that you guys will get used to in a bit. Essential documents will be those documents that are very key for us in terms of expected from the regulators, right? There are some documents we need to make sure we have handy at all times. And don't overthink it. These are documents that every site will have to have. You don't care about the name for now. You will hear things like 1572, which is a document that the main person responsible for the study, which is typically your PI or the doctor of that site, they have to have their signature on it, the location of their center on it. If they have other folks helping them on the study, the names and all of them, the information should be there. They have delegation of authority log, protocol signature log. Again, don't worry about all those terms for now. There are things you guys will see in real time. All I want you to take away is that there are certain documentation that we as CRAs must make sure the sites have them documented on site. Very important. And these are just some examples, taking it, and some of them will be like your medical license, the CVs for those um, respective participants on the site. All right, so I'll skip all of this. Source documentation, let's keep it simple. When we say source documentation, let's keep it simple. Think about it this way. If you and I go to, and I remember my wife used to give me this example because I couldn't wrap my head around it. Source documentation is just saying, hey, these are the documents that she said, okay, when I visit the hospital, what are the things they request from me? As simple as that. So sometimes you think about it and say, oh, my medical record, X-ray information, blood work. If there is any kind of, notes from the nurse or the doctors, pharmacy notes, all of those are considered source document. Any document at all tied to any information about my health, whatever it is considered a source document. Okay, as simple as that. So these are some good examples. You see the hospital record, clinic charts, surgical information, diagnostic report, lab report, pharmacy dispensing record, whatever it is, those are the key things that are source documentation. So in reality, for us, when we participate in a study, you want to check the inclusion and exclusion criteria of the subject, right? Meaning if a subject is participating in certain trial, there are certain things we have to consider to exempt them from the study. For example, if a patient has autoimmune disease, they are HIV positive, we know it can impact their blood pressure or their heart rate, whatever it is, then we just say, sorry, you cannot be part of the study because it's an exclusion criteria. Inclusion criteria will be things that makes you fit to qualify for the study. As part of our program, we'll make you guys work on a mini protocol synopsis. You guys will go to clinicaltrial.gov. Technically, you're going to build a protocol. We have someone on the call. She's amazing. She's built a full protocol herself in the past. And for you all, you will build a synopsis of a protocol by extracting information from clinicaltrial.gov, which is a global database of all trials all over the world that we can leverage. So we can select certain therapeutic area, oncology, rheumatologists, whatever it is, and just extract the information there and use it to build like a synopsis of a protocol. But it's fun exercise that we'll learn a lot from that process. All right. EMR, like we said, of course, many times, I would like to point this out at times. Sometimes some hospital systems, especially the big ones, would not give you access to physical record. They will tell you, well, we use EMR, mostly they use Epic or any other tool, and you have to manually online take notes about those subjects and make your decision, because they will not give you access to papers or any kind of hard copy. So you have to make your decision based on reviewing those data on their computer, because they'll not give you access to it outside of the organization. All right, so types of visits, I'll just talk about this real quick. We're going to cover different types of visits. We'll talk about investigators meeting, which is just the meeting when a study is kicking off. Then we'll get into site qualification, site selection, site initiation, interim visit, closeout visit. Every one of these elements we're going to talk about in the program. Now, let's put in mind, this is the job itself, really, to be honest. This is our work because you have to visit. So if you're on this call, and I think I've told most of you already, if you're not open to travel, that might be a little challenge because it's a travel job. Now, the good thing about the travel part of it is you get to schedule and dictate when you travel most of the time. So the expectation is maybe like 6 to 8 times you need to be on site, but you have to plan how you fit it in, So, it's going to be your call, how you want to fit your travel and make it work for yourself. But the commitment to us is that after the program, you will know all those key things required for each one of these visits, qualification, and as a matter of fact, we also have sample reports and things to expect. This field is strictly report driven. It's the report that shows you went to visit a site. So, I mean, in the past, we've seen people who just travel to a site and they do nothing. To them, it's like vacation, right? Now, you might get away with it for like a month or two. People will not know. But QC would come after you at some point because they want to audit the site. So QC will come with, yeah, we had instances where people just travel, we're spending people's company money enjoying, eating sushi, staying in good hotel. Then they realize that they've not even been traveling, or some would travel and not even show up at site. So it's crazy stuff people do, but I know everybody on this call are cool people. We don't do stuff like that, okay? But just something to know and be aware of. Those are the realities that we've seen in the past. So we're going to cover every types of visits in the program. I think we talked about IP already. Communication guideline, now very important. I know you might be surprised that the simplest of things are what I've seen embarrass a lot of people. The only time I ever, at least my role there as the associate director, the only time I ever let anyone go in my team, you'll be surprised, was because of something flimsy. This person refused to do their expense report for like 6 months. The implication of that was that, monthly, it was averaging maybe 10 grand of expense, right? The travel expense. So in 6 months, it means you are holding the company 70K. So it's crazy. How do you, I mean, and after multiple warnings and everything, now leadership, everybody's involved because they are seeing the numbers that what's going on, 60, 70K, that should be, already collected from clients and we cannot get access to it. So stuff like that are the biggest. Then, of course, working on your reports. It's so critical. Never procrastinate. Immediately you get in from your travel, 2 days, worst case, get your reports done. It will make your life sweet and easy because you would have time for other things because you've taken care of the report. The report is the way people know you visited the site, and your project managers will be, evaluating how quick you submit your report. If there are issues with the report, the expectation is that after multiple iteration of your report, the quality will improve, right? Because you know the style, what people are looking for, and everybody is at least in tune with what is expected. All right, let's go to the meat of everything. Frequently asked questions. We'll just take a few, then I open the floor. You guys can ask all the questions away. Is programming involved? No, there's no programming. All right. Do I need to be a US citizen to go into clinical research? No. It's expected to be a resident at a minimum, right? Or you should have work permit. So like any other job, you should be able to work in the US at the minimum. Science background needed? Yes. Many times science background is needed. However, I've seen a lawyer get into CRA and she was successful eventually over time. So it depends. If you are not a core science person and the determination and drive is there, it's still doable. But your work ethic must show. And I'll tell you personally, I remember a couple of times when I have an engineering background, right? And suddenly find myself, and I'm a tech person. Suddenly I just say, oh, let me explore the area. But what I did that was different was I put the work. I was crazily reading stuff that many times I had no clue what they were for a start, really. So I had to read it. So if other people read it once, I may read it 4 times to figure it out. I was just reading it because I didn't want to look stupid in front of these doctors that are genuine professionals. So sometimes some of those words to pronounce them were crazy. So I had to practice, 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 and mine was a rare disease study. So it's not like your popular terms that somebody can be used to. So I had to practice, see how it's spelled or named on Google to just be able to speak intelligent to it. Now, I may not know anything about your medical law stuff, but one thing you cannot beat me to is my protocol. And that's your strategy. You must know your protocol well because the protocol is really our own Bible. So you may be the doctor that knows all the stuff, but on the protocol, I got it. And I'll speak intelligent. Sometimes I leave some of my PI's office because normally we meet them 5 minutes anytime we visit. And I feel so proud of myself that, wow, look at me, I held my ground, because I mean, some of the terms that I would be scared and nervous, I realized, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad after all, because they nod their head. Hopefully they're not saying what the hell are you saying, but they nod their head, and we feel like we are colleagues. So I'm just saying all this to say it's doable. Put the work in it. It's doable. Do we help with resume? Yes, we put your draft. We help with draft, and you flesh it out yourself. You need to commit a lot of time to be successful. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Like anything else, if you are getting to a new field, it makes sense to put the time, the commitment to be successful at it. For our training, just to get a regular Mac window computer. We have an LMS we use, so most of the stuff would be uploaded there already for you to take a look at. Then we will focus on just the hands-on and things we do specifically day to day. All right, let's see what else. Job sites out there, Indeed, Dice, Premium LinkedIn is a good idea also. What roles can we search for when we apply? Clinical research associate, sometimes senior role also. You would know yourself if your work ethic is requires you to, because sometimes, now just prepare your mind. If you apply for a senior role, or if they give you a senior role, just be prepared that you would have to step up. If not, just take your CRA. But sometimes if you put for, because the reason I'm torn is sometimes if you, at least within my own organization, the expectation is the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're a senior or CRA, is the same thing we are doing, and you just have to execute and deliver. But just be mindful. If you put senior, they would expect a lot from you. So we recommend we start with regular CRA, then evolve. Some people call it regional monitor. They might call it a regional monitor, whatever they call it, is the same. It's just a CRA work. If the roles and responsibility aligns with what we're talking about, then just apply. Let's see some other question. Do I need to experience to build my career? So most people, all we need is our chance. Just take a chance. If you get one experience, we can build on that and, and maximize on it. Some people, I've seen people ask me, can I do 2 jobs? Yeah, it's too early to say that. Start with 1 job. Don't think of 2 jobs yet. But a lot of people, we know people that do 2, 3 jobs in this field. Don't try it now. At least spend 1 year before you make that kind of call. Okay, let's see. Does this role require meetings? Yes. Not crazy, but at least in the week you'll have your project meeting, then maybe one-on-one with your manager every 2 weeks or something. So you might have, sometimes you would be on a call. They might ask you to give status on your site. So let's say you have 3, 4 sites assigned to you. And honestly, the status is just, as long as you do your weekly communication to your site, we'll talk about that in the class. That simply means every week you have like a template of things you typically will ask them, send it out. Is there any change on the study? If it's a study that is just starting, ask them about enrollment. If it's a study that is deep into enrollment, they don't need enrollment again, ask them about resolving queries, issues they've had, get the status of it. For me, I always kind of brag and tell myself, hey, look, I brag about my site a lot, and I hate to see my site's name on site that have issue with query. So, they know that genuinely I don't want to be on the losing side. So, I kind of make them psychologically think it's a game. Do I genuinely mean it? Because I want them to, it paints me as your CRA in a bad light, and of course paints you, your company, in a bad light too. So they always feel pity for me and themselves that, look, okay, let's resolve this issue. So our name will not come up in those public meetings. All right, let's see. Certification required. Let me ask my wife. Not required, but if you are one of those accomplished people that want to do more, why not? If your company is paying for it, go for it. Just I don't have it, my wife doesn't have it, and I was an associate director, so it means I did something that worked. Class schedule. We're working towards November 12th, Saturdays and Sundays. More to come on that one. It's probably going to be, and the cool thing is that we typically just need about 5 classes, so we should be fine. We'll give a lot of work to prepare us, but in terms of the content, 5 classes, we should be good. So, all right. What is the one-time cost? The program is 1,500 for this class. Payment plan, yes, if you decide to go that route, it's just going to be more. You pay twice, 850 twice. Interesting data, 70% of people that don't begin to apply for a job after a training like this, within 4 weeks, end up not applying at all. That's a sad number. 80% of those who apply within 4 weeks often get multiple interviews to the final stage. So that means as we progress, put the work, we'll commit to you that we'll make sure we maximize and give the best we can. So we just want the same commitment, put the time, put the work, and good things always show up at the end of the day. All right, so let me pause for a second and open the floor. Then ask all the questions. I'll put my wife on the hot seat. She'll be taking. Okay, let's see. Let me take some questions on the forum. Then I will unmute myself. All right, let me unmute everybody. But before I unmute everybody, let me just quickly see some questions. What tools are needed? Excel, Word, etc. Didi, you are awesome. Yeah. So like any, I mean, the funny thing is I have my buddy for life. Yeah, she's here. She's a guru, a PhD. She's going to be starting a program on Office Product Suite. And Excel, anything we need in terms of leadership management, the answer is yes, absolutely yes. Unfortunately, there are some things we cannot do without right now. Excel, Microsoft Word, even maybe OneNote. Some of those tools that we take for granted, they can mess anybody up big time. So Didi, the answer is yes, it's a must, really. We must have those knowledge, because if not, you might have this skill, you will just be, it will embarrass you big time, because if you don't know those basic things, because what will happen is that somebody's going to send you a file and you're going to start wondering and sweating that, okay, what is this? So we just want to avoid this kind of embarrassment. All right, let's take the second question. When reviewing MVR and you see that there's a protocol deviation trend with lab collection, what's the best way to tackle the problem with the CRO? All right, I'll let my wife answer that. Let me see the question again. When reviewing MVR and you see that there's protocol deviation trend with lab collections, what's the best way to tackle this problem with the CRO? So if it's a protocol deviation across, if it's a protocol deviation across multiple sites, that there's a trend. So my first instinct is, if it's across every site, then we want to find out the root cause. Is it because something, as part of the protocol design, is there a part of the design that is causing this problem, or it's an issue with the site specific? So if it's a trend, then, because if it's a trend across if we have 20 sites on this study and the 20 sites are complaining the same thing, there's probably a design problem within our protocol. Maybe there's something wrong with the design. But if it's one site that I know is a reckless site anyway, then I'll know that, okay, this site might be a problematic site. Then we have to figure out how to retrain them and focus on that site. So before I go that far to say, make it a systematic problem with my CRO, we need to figure out if it's site-specific issue or a protocol design issue. That's my first instinct. And China says amazing. She's actually working currently as the equivalent of an in-house CRM. So I'm sure she's dealing with that at work right now. Was that helpful, Chinaze? All right. Somebody asked me, any ideas on the Canadian market? Okay, let me tell you one thing. You want to? Okay. In general, I'll tell you, a lot of studies, depends on the study, are global. At least I know of some studies I've been part of. We have Australian presence, UK presence, Tel Aviv presence, and US, of course. Some studies are strictly US markets. I don't remember having any Canada study. Canada, have you had Canada? Okay, yeah. So honestly, because if it's North America, it's the same thing. I've not had Canada specific, my wife has, and she can talk about it right now. So let me give her the hot seat. Let her come and sit down, that you guys can ask her away all the questions. She got it. Let me unmute it, and you guys can ask questions. Feel free. Let me see. I'll allow you guys to unmute yourself. She'll be in the hot seat right now. Let's see. So go ahead and ask questions, guys, ladies. This is the time for you guys to. So you can unmute yourself now. I think the system allows you to reduce it to. You
Yeah,
guys
I'm
can.
mute.
Okay, thank you. So let me put on the hot seat. I'll be talking in the background. Right.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Good. My name is Yinka.
Hi, Yinka, this is Chinasa.
Hi, Chinaza. Hi, everyone. I see all of your names, but I'm saying hi, Isha.
Hi.
All right. What questions do you have? At least that one I know. I'm not a good speaker like my husband, but at least I'll close.
I have a question, Yinka.
Yeah.
I have a question on monitoring visit reports, okay?
Yeah.
So when I sit as an in-house, just like your husband said, and an in-house CRA, overlooking the work of the CRO, the CRO with the CRA with the CR in the within the clinical research organization. So I get to review the MVR, and I'm noticing a trend with this particular site. The safety assessments, the lab collection is always a problem, and it's constantly reported as a protocol deviation. So I went back to the protocol deviation plan, and I'm looking at it. Is it a minor thing? Should I request for a kappa at this point, seeing that almost 6 or 7 of my subjects have one protocol deviation or the other due to from lab assessment, safety assessment, and lab collection? What is your take on this? How would you handle this?
Well, it depends. First, let me ask you: are you with the CRO or you're with the farmer?
No, I'm with the farmer. I'm with the sponsor.
No, you're with the sponsor. So
Mm.
when you review reports like that, definitely, I don't know if in the reports they've already indicated that there was a protocol, there's been protocol deviations, and I'm sure
They did.
Yeah, so definitely, if this is across, if this is just to one site, then definitely, you're raising kappa. And I'm sure the CRO, whoever the CRA is, would probably, and the COL or the CTM or the study manager would have raised the kappa for that site. So I don't know what your own protocol deviation documentation or your plan, that you definitely have your protocol deviation plan and what you do to what you do as corrective action or preventive action for reviewing all of this report and seeing it. So my first take is first, if you have access to the CRO and you have access to the study manager, you want to discuss these and indicate if this has been discussed, if a kappa has been in place, because if you're raising a kappa, are you raising a kappa for the CRO or are you raising a kappa for yourself? So if the site had, if the CRO had already raised a kappa for the site, then they are doing their own due diligence or taking their own due diligence. So I don't know. I've never worked with a farmer, so I don't know what you need to do. But definitely, in the long run, if I've seen those recurring issues, I definitely will raise a kappa. I will discuss this with my own study manager to see, how we can do. A lot of retraining will be done. A lot of continuous following up with the site. There are some sites that I tell you they have that issue. You will keep going back every day, and you keep seeing the same mistakes. And no matter how much you talk to the PI is not there. But after a while, being on top of it and ensuring that there's a plan to doing those things. And sometimes, when the farmer comes in, that's the sponsor comes in and discuss with the PI. Sometimes, a lot of times you see resolutions because they don't want to be on a PIP. And they don't want their site to be known as a problematic site. So most times when you see those kind of issues, even if the sponsor has escalated, the sponsor should sometimes usually get in touch with the PI, because I tell you, they all respect the PI, because the PI they all respect the sponsor, sorry, because the sponsor can determine at that point in time if they will terminate your site that, has the overall head for every study. They can terminate a PI sites once they understand or they see these reoccurring issues. And if they already have it on the CRO's part of their own report that this has been escalated, CAPA has been raised, and all of these things has been put in place, and you keep seeing the same continuous issue, then of course you want to put that site on PIP or the PI on PIP. And no PI wants to be on PIP because it means it's flags for any study or for any study that want to come up. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I think I can figure out what I'm supposed to do going from here, because I already sent an email telling my director that I think it's time we ask the CRO to raise a CAPA or to request the site to do something about this. Because it's become a trend. We have 7.
The report already indicates that there's a CAPA raise, then there's 1 raise. And of course, I'm not sure if it will make sense to continue raising CAPA because we've already raised that. But the most important thing is it now depends on how you want to escalate it to your own study manager about how to go about it. I'm sure there'll definitely be meetings between you and the CRO, and that's the study manager for the CRO team or the project manager about, this site, what has been done. Is this issue still reoccurring? And I don't know if the reports you are reviewing are current reports or they are past reports.
Reports.
If they're current reports, then it's issue that is still occurring. So yeah, you can definitely escalate to your own manager and say, okay, how do you want to go about it? Should we call the study manager on the CRO group to find out what they have done and probably do a CAPA with the CRO too, and say, based on this, what have you done?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi,
One
Inka.
question.
Hi.
Okay, the gentleman can go. Was somebody going to say something?
Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
All right, let me go ahead then. So I know your husband said something about the tools that I had asked about. So some of us are like basic or intermediate with these tools. So will you be giving us like some kind of simulation on those kind of tools to use, like the PowerPoint, Excel, and all of that?
So what we will do is, because those are honestly, we have a program designed just for that. And I think it will do us good to just be part of that program.
Okay.
It will be something, because the reality about those tools, I don't care what area we focus on, those are like life skill tool we have to use in any environment, even if it's IT, clinical attack, whatever area it is. So like Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. And the reason they are important is simple. You want to make, even people that are working right now that have some knowledge, we need efficiency in the use of those tools, really, because sometimes we just waste unnecessary crazy time on things we can easily just execute. And we just don't have time for that. We want to work smart so we can free time for other meaningful things for our personal life, really.
And the one I use the most is Excel. I use a lot of Excel. Trying to move to using OneNote, building up my knowledge of OneNote, because pretty much a lot of your study manager team members use the OneNote, and it's easier to share information or to be able to see what you're doing. And you can, like, if they ask you a question about a site or a subject, it's on either your Excel spreadsheet or your OneNote, and you can just click and open it and see what they're asking about that subject, because you definitely a report. Apart from you writing your report, you need to be able to keep a tab of your subject, your site. And so you have like I have folders of different studies, And then I have folders for each kind of visit. So if I started a visit from QV, I have all of the things I need in that QV folder, and there are different layers of folder inside that folder where I keep, the training documents, I keep the, the site documents, and then I have a folder for each PI, for each site. And there I keep, my MV letters, I keep everything I do about the site, documents I collect from the sites, things I send to the site. So that's what, and then when I'm doing my monitoring visits, I have my Excel that I put in all of the subjects and the different kinds of visit, because in your protocol, you have schedule of activities.
Gotcha.
And in that schedule of activities, it tells you what is being done, what needs to be completed for each visit that the subject needs to do. And that is what you're monitoring. That is what you're kind of auditing to see that, okay, the protocol says on visit 1, vital status, either infusion, either injection, probably they gave them IP to go back home with, things like that. So you need to keep a tab on that. And that is how you are able to know, okay, if your subject is deviating from the window visit, or if you know that the number of IP they're supposed to use from when they come in to when they return on site, you'll be able to calculate it faster. And that way, when you count your IP and you look back at your Excel, okay, he came on day 5, today is 16th and he returned on the 20th. So he's supposed to have used a number of IP. And that way, you can quickly do your calculations based on that. So it's just different things.
IP simply means
It's the investigational product.
Okay.
Your tablets, if it's injection or, pretty much anything that is all about.
Okay.
So.
Okay, all right. Then my next question, please, thank you, is so I have someone who's in college right now, and she said she got information that she could do, she can't be like the CRA, of course. Can she do like okay, so like is your course, is it like all encompassing? Do you like branch out at the end of the day if you do the CRA? Do you go like for like CRCs, like coordinator, data and everything, or is this just like specialized?
Coordinators are different. The CRCs are different. The CRCs are the ones like the nurses at the hospital, or the doctors or the medical associates, or the people you see at, like you go to your doctor's office. The nurse that sees you, she can be a CRA if that practice has a research practice. So they are not like specialized people. They are the people that you see when you go to the hospital. Or when you go to your doctor's office. So when they see you, it's a typical doctor's office. Like I go to the doctor, I have to see her for my yearly. Everything I have done for that visit, vital signs, your height, your weight, your blood pressure, and then you talk about, okay, what's your current medication? Have you changed your medication? Have you added anything to your medication? Okay, what are your symptoms you're bringing in today? Do you have any new symptoms? Okay, your old symptom, is it ended now? Those are the information we collect for studies as well. So they are typical, the things you do when you go to your doctor. When you go to the hospital, it's pretty much the same thing. What time you get into the hospital, whatever, or whoever did this. So the CRC are hospital nurses or medical assistants or anybody in the hospital or the doctor's office. The CRAs could be like China said, that works with the sponsor. The sponsor brings the contract to the clinical research organization. That's the CRO. So I work with the CRO. Chinasa works with a sponsor. So the sponsor gives us the contract and we execute those contracts on their behalf. Sometimes they give us the end-to-end. That is, they just tell you, this is the study we are working on. You work on the PIs, you identify, the PIs means principal investigators, and those are the doctors. For every study you have to do, there has to be a hospital or a doctor's office. And depending on the studies for, infusion and things like that, it's pretty much going to be a hospital's kind of setting study. But if it's like, your internal medicine doctor, ophthalmologist, it's going to be a doctor setting place that we're going to utilize. So those are the difference between that. So the CROs are the CRAs, and then the
Okay.
hospital or the doctor's office are the CRC.
Oh, okay. So with yours, the person has to have a degree, right?
Yes, for most CRAs, they want you to have a degree.
Sorry, when you say the person is in school, are they doing bachelor's or master's right now?
No, bachelor's, like first degree.
How far are they in the program?
I think a year, and I think this is first semester of the second year, if I'm correct.
Okay, so it makes sense they have to finish their program to.
Yeah,
be part
because if
Mhm,
you tell them, okay, if they have probably associates,
yeah,
or
yeah.
if they've had a degree before, and then you can now say, okay, I've had a degree before, and I'm just working on this other degree.
Yeah,
Now,
true.
So basically, Yinka, the
Study your-
CRC has to
Mhm.
be, is a clinician, right?
The CRC depends.
The
Hospitals
ones
in
that, the ones in the hospital, they're basically clinicians, right?
they they're basically what I didn't get you, sorry.
They're basically clinicians like nurses and doctors.
No, the clinicians are more of the you won't see a lot of clinicians that are CRCs. The CRCs are more of the nurses, the medical assistants, the LVNs or whatever, or anyone that is there at the office. The office determines who their CRC will be,
Okay.
and you train them to be CRC. So most of the time,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so the hospital has a research part of arm. So they have their own seeing regular patients, and then they have research. So the CRC are part of the research. They definitely would be working at the hospital, but for the research part, they are the CRC.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I get you now.
Different roles in the CRC for for the hospital settings. They have their regulatory, they have their clinical research, they have their research assistants. For the hospitals, they have their research nurses and things like that, or infusion nurses, depending on what they want to call them.
Oh, okay, get you. But with traveling, you guys, I think there was one that went to your class. I have to ask my friend if she's from your class. I can say like 98%. I'm almost sure about that you guys trained her. I know she's like a senior CRA now. She doesn't do traveling. Is she just fortunate enough to get that role? Because I know they say she does like something called an SOP.
It depends. Pre-COVID, you pretty much see a lot of traveling roles. COVID, post-COVID, like now,
Telecommute now.
yeah, like now, most
Mhm.
clinical research organizations, most CROs are now separating a traveling CRA and a remote CRA.
Okay.
Then most studies now with post-COVID found a lot of research sites started utilizing EMR, and then a lot of them started utilizing OneDrive, and a lot of them, so they could scan those sales documents, and you can have access to that remotely, and so you have a lot of remote roles now. For most oncology sites, they are still not, a lot of them, 90% of them are still not allowing people to the
To the
oncology.
site. Mhm.
So it's remote. It's pretty much remote. Like I still talk to one of my site. I'm like, when can I come on site? They were like, right now, no.
Hmm.
When? They don't know. They are not, because they have a lot of immunocompromised subjects.
Yes.
Patients, yes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
They don't want to just keep allowing external people come in to those areas, and most of those areas will be areas where they have their infusions, and so you just don't want to get these people sicker than they are sick.
Sick. Yeah. Okay. Get you
So
now.
so
Okay.
so and then some studies now would do 20% travel. Like I'm on a study where I only would go to the sites twice. Even for the SIVs and the QVs were remote. I'll only go to the sites the first time they have a patient, and then when we're closing the study. Every other thing is going to be remote.
Okay.
So some of them have EMRs that I have access to. Some of
Okay.
them will, on the day of the visit, just send me the data I need. And so And so that has changed how remote is, how monitoring visits is being conducted now. So
Gotcha.
you can get to some organizations and they are still pretty much doing 70-80% travel. And then you have some sites that are 100% remote.
Okay.
And so it depends on which one you probably
So there are
fall
no
into.
guarantees. It's just, and it can be anything.
Yeah, it can be anything, but pretty much, you're getting a lot of remote. Like I don't travel as I used to before.
I'm sorry, folks, I know we are 1 minute past the time. I want to be respectful of the time. Let's give it up for Yinka. Thank you so much. Like,
Do they have any other-
Thank you,
Yeah.
Yinka.
Okay.
if you guys, I don't want to mess up you guys, but if you guys say you want to keep it up, that's fine with me, but I just want to be respectful. Any
No,
other-
I have to go on the
questions.
call.
Oh, you have to leave too, right?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
I
for
understand.
me, yeah.
Okay,
think
thank you so much.
there's no one to
Adebayo, okay, let's unmute. Go ahead, Adebayo, and that will be the last question. And folks, we have a group that we can always keep chatting. How many of us here? About 12 of us. Let's keep the conversation. If you're not part of our group in WhatsApp, please join the group and I can answer your questions specifically.
And we get the record in place, right?
Yes, I'll send the recording too.
Thank you.
Adebayo, you have a question?
Oh, okay. I'd like to be part of that group. My name is Adebayo. Good evening and good evening, everyone.
Good
Uh,
evening.
So,
If you don't mind, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to find out whether there's part-time opportunities in the role. Now, the reason why I ask this is because I'm in college right now. I'm a medical doctor in my background. I recently moved to Canada with my family, doing some course in healthcare, but I've always wanted to do something in clinical research, and I've not had any kind of direction until I got a link to this Zoom meeting. So pretty much everything that I'm hearing today is rather new, even though most of the medical terms I'm conversant with. So I just basically need some kind of orientation. I think my question is pretty much going to drag us beyond the time. I'm happy to.
Don't worry. Let's do me a favor, brother. If you don't mind, can you please send me your number on this chat, and
Okay.
let's connect one-on-one, and I'll get into more details with you. We
Okay.
can brainstorm.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I really love that. Thank you so much. I sent you a mail on WhatsApp anyway, so.
Oh, you did already?
Yes.
Can you ping me on WhatsApp, please? So it will be on top.
What do you say?
Can you ping me on WhatsApp right now?
Oh, okay. Let me do that right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Any last question, guys, ladies?
Okay.
All right. You all are awesome. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You all have a good evening.
We'll talk again.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Yinka. Thank you. Bye, Chidas. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.